They laughed at the old veteran as he shuffled through the marble hall, his coat worn thin, his shoes dull by time. They did not know his name. They did not know his story. They only saw a bent back and quiet eyes, and they decided he did not belong. Asterisk, what city are you watching from today? If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe for more stories about extraordinary people. The ceremony was meant to honor excellence. Flags lined the walls. Medals gleamed under bright lights. Officers in crisp uniforms filled the seats, speaking in low, confident voices. In the back, the old man stood alone, clutching an invitation he had read and reread to make sure it was real. He had arrived early because he was afraid of being late. He had arrived alone because he had learned long ago to walk without expectation. He had been a soldier once. That truth lived in his posture even now, in the way his shoulders squared when a senior officer passed, in the way his gaze never wandered when colors were presented. But time had softened him. Age had taken his strength, not his discipline. He waited near the wall, careful not to block anyone, careful not to draw attention. A pair of young officers noticed him and smirked. One whispered that the man must be lost. Another joked that this was not a charity hall. Their laughter was light and quick, the kind that does not pause to consider who might hear it. The old man heard. He always heard. He pretended not to. He remembered a different hall, decades earlier, where the air smelled of oil and sweat and fear. He remembered young faces beside him, all of them certain they would change the world. Some had not lived long enough to try. He remembered promises made in the dark, vows to bring everyone home. He remembered failing that vow more times than he could count. The ceremony began. A master of ceremonies welcomed the guests and spoke of honor, service, and sacrifice. Applause filled the room. The old man did not clap loudly. He never had. He folded his hands and listened, letting the words pass through him like wind through tall grass dot as names were read and medals presented. The old man felt the familiar weight in his chest. Pride for strangers. Grief for friends. A quiet ache for a life that had moved on without him. He wondered why he had been invited. He had not worn a uniform in many years. He had not stood at attention in a long time. Perhaps there had been a mistake. Then the Admiral entered. The room rose as one. Conversation stopped. The Admiral was a figure of legend, a leader whose name carried the gravity of decades at sea and in command. His presence filled the hall not with noise, but with certainty. He returned the salute with precision and took his place at the front dot as the Admiral settled. His eyes moved across the audience. He did not rush. He looked as a man who had learned to read rooms the way sailors read skies. His gaze passed over rows of decorated officers, paused at the back, and stopped. The Admiral stood again. A ripple of confusion spread through the hall. The master of ceremonies hesitated. The audience remained standing, unsure of what protocol demanded. The Admiral did not speak at first. He walked out. He moved down the aisle with deliberate steps, his eyes fixed on the back wall. Whispers began. Some thought there had been a security issue. Others thought he had recognized an old colleague. No one imagined the truth. The Admiral stopped in front of the old man. For a moment, the hall was utterly still. The old man looked up, startled. He tried to straighten, embarrassed by his worn coat, his tired hands. He opened his mouth to apologize, though he did not know for what. The Admiral raised his hand and saluted Dot. It was a perfect salute, sharp and unwavering, held with respect that needed no explanation. Gasps echoed through the hall. Cameras lifted. Whispers turned to stunned silence. The old man froze. He had not been saluted like that in many years. His body remembered before his mind did. He returned the salute, slow but true, his hand trembling only slightly. In that instant, the years fell away. He was not old. He was not forgotten. He was a soldier. The Admiral spoke, his voice clear and steady. He said the old man's name. He said it as if it mattered, as if it had always mattered. He told the room that this man had once commanded a unit when command meant leading from the front. He said that when everything went wrong, this man did not retreat. He held a line that was never meant to hold. He brought his people home when the odds said none would return. The Admiral said that the strategies taught today were built on lessons learned by men like this one. He said that the freedoms enjoyed in comfortable halls were paid for by sacrifices made in places that did not forgive mistakes. The young officers who had laughed felt heat rise in their faces. They stared at the floor, their earlier words now heavy and small. Others listened with tears in their eyes as the Admiral described nights without sleep, decisions that haunted, courage that did not announce itself. The old man listened too. He had not expected praise. He had lived long enough to know that recognition often came late, if at all. He felt a tightening in his throat as the Admiral thanked him for a service that never truly ended. When the Admiral finished, he lowered his salute and extended a hand. The old man took it. Their grip was firm, a silent exchange between those who understood what words could not carry. The hall erupted in applause, not polite, not brief, but deep and sustained. It rolled like a tide, washing over the old man until he had to blink back tears. He bowed his head, overwhelmed. He had learned to endure hardship. Not honor doubt the Admiral guided him to a seat of prominence. No one questioned it. The ceremony continued, but something had changed. The room felt different, as if a truth had been spoken aloud that could not be taken back. Afterward, people approached the old man. They thanked him. They asked questions. They listened. He answered simply, careful not to make heroes of himself or villains of fate. He spoke of teamwork, of luck, of the debt he carried to those who did not walk out with him. As the hall emptied, the young officers who had laughed earlier approached. They apologized without excuses. The old man accepted with a nod. He knew how easy it was to judge by appearances. He had done it once himself, long ago, and learned the cost. When he left, the night air was cool and calm. He walked a little taller, not because of the applause, but because someone had remembered. Someone had seen him. Stories like this remind us that worth does not fade with time, and honor does not require an audience. The quietest person in the room may carry the heaviest history. Before we laugh, before we dismiss, we should look again. What did this story make you feel? Where are you watching from? Subscribe to Soul Relief Stories for more real stories that heal the heart.